Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leader Generation brought to you by ModApp. I'm your host, Tessa Burg, and today I am excited to invite some other ModAppers to a special panel that we're doing. We've all been hearing a lot about what AI and marketing can do and being given all these examples. It can automate workflows, it can help you create content and things that we should be doing, like optimizing our websites for LLMs and doing GEO style tactics, or even going as far to say we should have our own agents and the agents will act on our behalf. But one question that we get quite often is, how is this all even possible? And where do I start? So in today's episode, the guests on the panel know how to make this happen. So I'm very excited to welcome Fabio Fiss, Grando, and Javier López. And we're going to be telling you not only where to start, but the technology that enables what feels impossible and makes it possible, and give you some examples that you can take back and start to explore on your own. So thank you all for being here. I'm super excited to kick this off. All right, we're going to open up with first having each of you introduce yourself, and then we'll get into the very first subject about what is MCP and A2A. But first, Fabio, tell us a little bit about yourself and your role here at ModApp.
Hey everyone, my name is Fabio. I'm a VP of Technology here at ModApp. I've been with the company for 10 years. I'm based in Miami, Florida, and I lead our development team and our digital experience group.
Awesome. Aaron.
Hello, everybody. I'm Aaron Grando. I am VP of Creative Innovation here at ModApp, and I work on Tessa's innovation team. And we're responsible for identifying and rolling out AI technologies to our internal teams and figuring out ways to deploy them for clients as well.
Love it. Javier.
Hey, my name is Javier. I'm based in Panama. I'm a senior software engineer. I work in Tessa's team, also with Aaron, and I do everything about software development and plumbing AI systems.
Thank you again for being here. So a lot of our clients and a lot of our team internally are really familiar with how to use ChatGPT, and even some of us have begun to build our own GPTs. So we have a good sense that we can automate some highly repeatable tasks. We can start to do things we've never been done before. I say this in so many episodes. We've tested or reviewed over 300 apps. But what comes next in the next horizon of AI is really all about connecting those things so that agents can operate independently, so that we get more accurate measurement on these workflows. And there are two technologies, or at least two that I'm familiar with, that help with this that I wanted to get defined first. And I think some people have heard of these, but they might not have a good definition. So Aaron, can you start us off on beginning to define what is MCP and what is A2A?
Yeah, so both MCP and A2A are standards that respectively Anthropic and Google, and I think an overall like technology group of different companies have kind of come together to set some standards for themselves about how these systems can, actually exchange information and exchange instructions. So I think the main thing to think about MCP is that it's not necessarily an API. I know a lot of marketers are used to APIs, but it's a standard for how you set up an API so that other APIs can reach out to your API and know what to expect and know how to respond. And what MCPs enable is essentially agents to pull in information from external systems and incorporate that information into their prompt or their generations. So you can think of stuff like a product information database pulling in info from an MCP provided by that PIM provider. A2A, it stands for agent to agent, and that is a standard that Google is setting up to allow agent-based systems to talk to each other and have agents provide context to other agents as opposed to other human beings or like human users. So the use case there would be for things like an agent system that may want to have a user request a food delivery, And then, that request goes to the agent that is running the conversation. And then that agent goes out and makes a request to Pizza Hut's agent. And both of them are speaking in A2A standards. And the conversation happens between those agents passing back and forth payment information and receipt. And then that eventually bubbles its way back to the user. So again, these are like enabling technologies that are really intended to set a standard baseline for protocols. And we're really used to working with protocols when we're working with digital products. The whole internet is based on protocols, HTTP, you were probably familiar with. So it's about setting up these standards for applications to kind of agree on and have as a kind of a lingua franca between their functionalities.
That's a fantastic answer and very thorough. Javier, have you had a chance to test any of these emerging protocols?
Oh yeah, I've tested some. Like sometimes when I'm developing, I can use MCP to have agents talk to my database and help me debug issues. I wanted to give a quick example for people to understand better MCP and A2A. I like to think about it in two types of workplace behavior. For example, sometimes you get hands-on, you open Excel, you grab the sales numbers, make a chart. That's like an agent using MCP to directly work with a tool or system. But other times you just delegate. Just like a teammate, you tell it to run the sales report and drop it in the deck, and then that's A2A. It's just an agent telling another one that has the access, the tools, the knowledge to do some tasks. So that's like the difference between the two standards. Like sometimes can be confusing. But I mean, I have used them multiple times. Currently or recently, Cloud Chat release Anthropic, you are able to use chat to create Jira issues or to search your documents on Google Drive. So those are the advancements we are starting to get in the field. Yep.
I love that. So just using it in sort of your everyday to make
Yep.
what you're doing more efficient.
Indeed.
When Fabio, I know you work and lead the teams on the client projects. When you think about the power that these standard protocols can bring to existing applications, what are you seeing as some opportunities in our digital experience work where this could really play a significant role?
So I'll give you three examples of things that are kind of starting and enhancing on our pipelines. So one example that I see we're exploring right now with a platform called Active Demand in the senior living space, actually, in the industry there. So one of our clients that works in that industry, they are looking at Active Demand as a platform to replace their CRM, plus some integrations with the OpenAI API and going through an agent-to-agent type of integration for automation, right? So they're replacing a very specific narrow CRM that existed in that industry with this AI-based platform. And it deals a lot with the user journey and not just the CRM piece of it, but bringing all that data into the system and then using that data for their workflows. So it seems really powerful. We did some discovery last year on it, and this year we're actually going to go into full implementation. So we've been very excited about that one. A second example, which is more of an evolution of some things that we're seeing in terms of demand from clients, is chatbots plus some other marketing integrations, right? So we have a lot of demand that existed before for chatbots with platforms that marketers know super well, like HubSpot or Zendesk. And now they're looking to understand what else they can do with agents that then can take this data and do new automations in their systems, right? So we've been exploring some things with HubSpot already with one of our clients in the real estate world or industry. And there's only more potential as these platforms also incorporate some of the protocols and some of the APIs from the foundation models. So we're excited about what's possible with those platforms. And then finally, more of an internal type of use case. And it's actually being very useful for our projects in audits. So we've been exploring both our dev team and our SEO team we've been exploring using agents that we build either through GPTs or we build a little application to do audits that we would have to do it very manually. So if we're looking at things, for example, if the site is responsive, does it have connections with social media? Does it have integrations that we're looking for specifically in the code? We can build an agent that then goes and does that audit for us. The SEO team is also checking the content on a page to make sure that it's all optimized for SEO, right? So a lot of the things that we would do with different platforms and different tools across many systems, we can all automate through these agents.
I love that. And Aaron, you come to us from the creative SBU and have a lot of years of experience in more of the content creation, social media, creative design. Where do you see these playing a role in helping to elevate that quality of work and kind of give our creative teams different superpowers?
Yeah, I see both of these as really helpful at the part of the process that both pulls information into an AI workflow and also kind of puts it back into the human workflow. So, for example, you could use an MCP to access a product database and have look at all of the different specific products that are maybe aligned to a specific attribute. Like you could select all of the high protein meals available from a specific brand. And then you could do something in the middle, using an AI assistant through like a conversational interface to maybe create that content, draft it up. And then in the end, use an MCP that's hooked up to a content creation tool like Figma or one that's set up to interact with a file system like SharePoint to actually have the AI go out, make a request to a tool. This is essentially what MCP does to go out and affect something outside of your chat environment. So it's a way of connecting info from outside of that AI work environment in that chat box to actual outputs and inputs that affect what we do outside of that conversation.
I love that. And then this has come up a few times talking about pulling in data from external, outside. If somebody wanted to explore who right now is providing or meeting these standards, how could they find that? Like, because I could think of lots of different places I would like to get data, but how do I know that they're using the same protocol as me?
Yeah, with MCPs, it's really kind of like a homebrew solution right now in a lot of ways. There are MCPs that are out there that are offered, either for free or for subscription. Essentially, they're data providers, data brokers. For us, the way that we're thinking about it is, we have different kinds of data that we might want to make accessible at different levels of permission. So we're thinking about using MCPs to allow different agents to access different types of information based on how we want to have that permission delegated. So we think about it as a little bit of traditional like data domestication, data cleansing, data organization, and then eventually data serving up through essentially an API like you might traditionally. But it does allow us to work with a little bit more unstructured data, a little bit more different types of data in a way, pulled in through the same means and then processed with AI, excuse me. I think that answered your question.
It does. And I think what we would want clients to know is some of this could be available in platforms they already have today. Like their LiveRamp, Nielsen. I think that sometimes when you hear we're going to go get external data, for whatever reason, sometimes people jump to like scrapers. Like this might not be legal, but in fact, it really is about a lot of us as marketers have these data sources in our stack. It's simply how do we connect the dots so that we can power these different solutions. And again, what I think is important for marketers is when we start with the challenge or problem we're trying to solve, always flowing out that process. And after you understand the process, look at what tech is already underneath there. because this may just be a matter of continuing to get additional data and features out of your existing tech stack. And I think that makes this a little less intimidating because these are new terms that it's like, well, I don't know if this applies to me. I don't know if the team I'm working with knows how to do this. The team you're working with may not know how to do this. However, it definitely can apply to you. And as we've said in other episodes, AI features, AI access points, data that you can leverage to increase the quality of your AI is already inside your business.
Yeah, I think to your point, the important thing there for me is that so many of these challenges that we're trying to solve in innovation, throughout DX are the same problems that we've always been trying to solve. Like it's the same things, just a new package for them. It's the same data. In a lot of ways, MCPs don't give us access to new data. It just gives us a new way to access it and a new set of instructions for our AI coworkers, essentially, to understand how to use that data in what they're doing in our chat interface or our API workflow.
Aaron, you just said something that can really open up a whole other Pandora's box. And so we're going to go there. You said AI coworkers. And I think that is a future some people get very intimidated by. But Javier, I'm going to throw it over to you because you've already started using AI as sort of an assistant. So how far off do you see having an agent who's more like your coworker actually being?
Well, I think it depends. It depends of the expectations you have. Because yeah, they can start being maybe a coworker right now, but for what task? Because there is a lot of responsibility in many tasks. And when an AI is your coworker, you are the one responsible for what he does, right? So that's a challenge. When you start giving AI, for example, tools to create to-do lists and organize a calendar, if the AI does something wrong, I mean, the AI is not responsible. At the end of the day, it's us that pick the solution, right? So I think you can start having AI help you in many tasks, but you have to think very thoroughly about what is it gonna do, what happens if it goes wrong, and you have to start evaluating those things. So right now I use AI for many things in my day-to-day things, but I have to review what it does because at the end of the day, I'm responsible for that work. So I think they are starting to be there now, and I think this year we're gonna have be able to use, hey, can you fix this Word document for me? And it's gonna do it very well. But I think for other use cases like generate a report I'm gonna present to my boss, then that's gonna take a little more time, or you're gonna have to intervene to see the output of the AI coworker. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And you gave some examples that entry-level employees used to do, or even junior developers. Do this research, focus on bug fixing, focus on testing, and QA is another area where AI is really advanced. And I know there's a concern in the market, like, what will entry-level folks do? And in fact, just last week, they reported that the number of jobs went down. And there's no specific evidence that says it's AI, but there's these quiet reading between the lines that boards and CEOs have said, well, we're just not going to hire because we are seeing AI be able to do a lot of these entry-level worker tasks, and we want to see how this plays out. I certainly have an opinion, but Fabio, I wanted to get your thoughts. How do you think this is going to impact teams, especially if you think about web development, UX, or entry-level folks coming into marketing, advertising, and technology as we go forward?
I have three thoughts on that level. I think first, I feel that automation and looking for efficiency, it's a natural path all the time, right? So if you look from the CEO point of view or any like director, marketing director, they're gonna look for that automation process and that efficiency process, right? So that's kind of something that anybody just starting in the industry should have in mind already, that you have to start with that concept in mind, that these tools are there to make you more efficient and to elevate your skills too, right? The second thought I have is that there's always this fear of a new technology replacing jobs, right? And replacing people in general. But if you look at from more of an optimistic point of view, it's usually not the case in the long term. What happens, and I guess the best example is social media, right? If you look at just 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a social media manager or a social media content creator. If you look at video production, there was no such concept of a content creator in the way that YouTubers are seen today, right? So you may get an impact in the short term of how people operate on their day to day, but in the long term, you're going to see brand new jobs and positions to surfacing. So I feel like that's another natural path of any new technology revolution. And then the third part of my thinking is always that look at the ways that the technology companies are positioning these technologies as well. They're not showing these technologies as a way to replace it. We were talking about that before, for example, with Microsoft, they call it a co-pilot. They're not saying that you replace the pilot. It's just a co-pilot. So you're going to have an assistant to keep like working with you. So the way that I feel about this is that you're always going to be, as a developer or some other type of leader in the team, or even as an entry point person, you're going to be the conductor. And you're going to have instruments on your orchestra, and you're going to be able to orchestrate the music and the songs. So this is how I envision these AI tools and platforms for the future.
Yeah, I agree. And Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, we have talked a little bit about it. We recorded an episode yesterday and we thought about this problem a lot. And I've been thinking about it a lot too. And where my head goes is that, especially for people that already work in technology like us, we have a lot of really transferable skills that where we are taking an expertise that we've been able to build like a pretty good moat around. Technical expertise is hard for people to break into. It's hard for people to get up to speed, especially with how fast technology, internet technology has always moved. But I could see that moving out to kind of diffuse across the entire organization where there could be opportunities for an engineer on every single type of team now, as opposed to being siloed in like an engineering team or a technology team, where having somebody that has technical background, maybe using an AI coding assistant, like we talked about yesterday, be able to take concepts from engineering and apply them to like, domain specific business challenges. I think that only kind of it speaks to the YouTube creator versus the videographer mention that Fabio just had, where there's going to be more people doing technology engineering work. There may be less engineers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, the role of the senior engineer may evolve to be elevated as well, because you may have to be more of a mentor rather than being the person that's just doing the code day to day, right? So I think one thing that we're thinking right now internally is actually how do we change our mentorship programs in-house for developers that are growing in expertise, but need to assist people that are just starting their journeys as a developer as well. So I think that mentorship capability will increase. It's the same way that happened in the past with a developer that was just coding to become an architect, right? So I think those skills will evolve even if you're not doing code in the same way that we were doing before.
Yeah, I agree. For some reason, like I have very little concern for young people, and that maybe that's because the young people I'm surrounded by are like so innovative. But just for example, my daughter, who is 11, is already producing her own movies. And I feel like AI for all of us, whether you're 11 or you're in your 40s, is giving you the ability to create, develop, elevate in a way you've never done before. And that will lead to different positions. So while there probably is a silent pause on hiring for the roles that exist today, those who are awesome problem solvers and always are curious about how they can use the tools in front of them to solve problems and elevate will be positioned really well for the jobs of tomorrow. Javier, I saw you raise your hand unless you were just clapping.
I wanted to add to what Fabio said. Like recently, I saw a very prolific maintainer in the JavaScript ecosystem commenting. He's a senior engineer, and he said that now with AI, he can mentor, and now he also has time to code. So before he only had time to mentor, right? And now he has time to code. So we don't know how these new tools are gonna affect, but they are changing the way people work. So people are able to do many more things. Like, for example, I also read an article today from Martin Fowler, which is a big software famous person, let's say it like that. And he said that now developers are able to do things that before there was too many busy work, like reading documentation, how we're gonna implement this. Even if it was simple, you spend hours you reading how this thing works. Now with AI, you can just ask a few questions and it can help you like get the base parts together. And now the developer with his knowledge takes it from there and finish working on something that before he would have taken hours. Now he just take maybe 30 minutes. Yep.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that too, because recently I've been watching a lot of content about how to use these tools that generate code. We were talking about vibe coding before, right, in another episode. So one of the initial applications that a regular developer can start is just a notepad application, right? So you and these days with these tools that are available, you can code that very quickly now. In just a matter of hours, you can ask through prompting to create a notepad application. So what I think is going to happen is that people that are just starting out, that barrier is going to be gone of just being able to start a hello world type of application or very simple type of application. And now they're going to be able to be even more creative because the entry point for that is already simple to do, right? So you don't have to spend hours and hours, sometimes weeks, right? When we had to in the past to build a simple application. So now you have more space and time to be more creative. So I think that's what's going to happen in a sense for people that are just starting out, which is, if you think about it, is what happened again with social media. When you remove that barrier of publishing, like publishing what used to be very hard, right? And then you made publishing very easy. Now you create a whole nother industry of creativity just by making that barrier of entry lower, right? So I think that's what's going to happen in a sense.
Yeah, I love that. So I'm going to recap a couple of things before we move into the next section. So at the beginning of this, we talked about some of the enabling technologies that make building an agent army or simply automating workflows possible. And we brought it down to the marketer level. So I just Googled to the most common marketing platforms because I'm very positive that any marketer listening to this already has some of these platforms inside where they can start accessing that data using MCP. So we already mentioned Nielsen Trade Desk, DV360, if you're doing any digital media and platforms, most of the ad servers, CTV campaigns, any of your web analytics. So again, when you're thinking about, hey, I want to optimize or automate this workflow, lay out that problem, lay out the process, the tech, you have some tech below that can help be the external data to help make sure that how you're optimizing can start to be self-sufficient using existing agent technology. And then the other thing we talked about is opportunities in the market as it relates to jobs. This will impact the types of roles available. But the next section I want to get in is if we are directing and orchestrating, as Fabio put it, if we are conducting this orchestra of agents and we do have assistants working with us to operationalize independently against workflows, what does that mean for what we're building for clients? For example, apps and websites. Someone sitting at a buyer business, we'll use B2B first as an example. I'm an engineer. I need to source different components and parts to complete a project. I want to evaluate what's available. I might have an agent go do that for me. Same with any market research firms or professional services organizations. I want to track trends in the market. I want to better understand where the financial impact of mergers and acquisitions is going. So when we think about, there's so much work that is put into research and starting to design solutions, and for buying, purchasing, and even consideration set. What are we doing? What are we thinking about today, Fabio, as we look at the role of the websites, the role of apps, and other traditional tools that have delivered this information to clients? And how do we think that's going to evolve as agents emerge?
I think if I had to think about just the way that we talk about websites to our clients or applications, they're still your hub of information, right? So the website is your place of ownership of your content, your data. And I think that's also a way to think about how these tools, the applications and the websites, can become sources of truth for data as well. So I'll give you two examples of things that happen with clients. We talk a lot with clients about data integrity. If you have, for example, an investor relations piece on your website, right? And how important that data is to feed other platforms, right? So same way with industries, for example, in the real estate world, where a lot of their data is in their content management system for properties or offices or things that then need to be pulled to other platforms. Sometimes we're pulling from external sources into the website, but now I see a world where the website can also be that source of truth for data gathering, and then ultimately for AI agents to consume that data and move it into automation, right? So that's one area that I see a lot of our applications and websites becoming more and more the source of truth for data gathering. You know that you can control your privacy policies there. You know you can control your data integrity. You know that there will be a human in the loop in that process, so you can maintain the quality of the data. So that's how I see this evolving.
Yeah, I agree. And it really puts a strong emphasis on making sure you understand what your buyers and target audience really need to make a decision. Like we talk about, AI can help us, or does help, and is already accelerating content creation. Just creating content will not be enough. In an agent world, these are going to be optimized by people to only do and to gather exactly what they need and want. And so really understanding those needs, wants across the journey will be very important as we continue to optimize websites and build websites that matter and drive performance.
Yeah, I can give you one more example of another type of client or industry in the healthcare space, where they have a lot of information on their websites, right? So one of the things that we've had requests from different clients more recently is about being able to gather all that information, make it consistent and accurate, so you can use it for chatbots and other types of interfaces that interact with the user, right? But their website is the source of truth for that data that's been regulated, has been reviewed in that specific industry, which is so important with compliance and things of that nature. So
yeah, that's a great example. Aaron, what about on the B2C consumer side?
Yeah, going off of what Fabio just mentioned about keeping a human in the loop, I think these technologies are one of the enabling pieces that we have there. A really common MCP pattern that I think we're going to see emerge is using an MCP integration into like an AI chat experience that does allow for that human in the loop approval or rejection of a concept or an idea before it takes like a further action. So I think that's one major place, but in a lot of ways, I think it kind of speaks to that we're kind of shifting from what I'll just generally call classical computing paradigms, where 1 + 1 = 2 always 100% of the time. We're moving into a little bit of a more probabilistically driven set of paradigms when it comes to interactions and data retrieval. So where those two things overlap will be where we wind up. There are going to be applications where it's much more important to have fully accurate recall of a very specific set of data. And then there are also going to be applications where we want to have the more probabilistic AI-driven predictions coming out of the system. And these technologies are kind of the glue that kind of lets us put those two pieces together and say, okay, right now I want to treat you like a database, but when I'm brainstorming ideas or asking you to generate content, let's set aside the database and start to think more out of the box, a little bit more probabilistically. Like, let's kind of mix it up a little bit.
At
Oh,
the
I love
same time, I wanted just to add that data structure is really important
Huge.
now,
Yeah.
more than ever. I think this is one part that we've been bringing up to our clients in the sense that SEO is evolving, right, as well to meet the demand of the models that are using search to find the right references. If you don't treat your data on your website or in your application in a way that's well structured and with schema markup and in a way that the model can actually understand it, you won't surface in their search, right? As Google is also evolving their search with AI, OpenAI is taking a huge space of that market share now over time. So structuring your data from an SEO perspective, technically speaking, is super important now. So that will continue to evolve.
Yeah. Well, this has been really exciting. Javier, before we leave, is there anything, or I'm sure there is, but what is something that you are looking forward to working on or sort of testing and experimenting with this year?
Well, I think A2A, agent to agent communication, because it was announced maybe a couple months ago, but it hasn't taken the shape really. The agents still are very controlled by us, by humans, like we chat and we have to approve their actions. So I think they are going to start popping up agents that are completely let loose, and seeing what they are capable of doing, for me, is very interesting. So that's something I'm very, very excited about to see. Yeah.
Just you saying that, I think might be a surprise to some people listening because there's so much hype around agents. And that's why I like keep calling it an agent army, is because I feel like some people think there's this massive army coming for their jobs and coming for all this work.
Yeah.
Reality is they're not quite there. And it is important to keep going back, revisiting, testing, and make the most of what's in front of you. Like so many of the opportunities we see with clients is simply connecting the dots, connecting the data sources within your existing tech stack to help you get more value and elevate your work. So Javier, do you have something else to add?
Yeah.
Go
There
ahead.
was something else I'm looking forward to. Like they're starting to build these integrations, like AIs that work with you in the browser. Because there's so many times that you're using a website and doing busy work. You have to copy from here, check this out, move this here, fill this in here. And now they're starting to make agents that are able to control your browser. So you can use, hey, can you help me create a summary from this and put it in my Google document? So you're gonna start seeing that those kind of helpers that are very useful, and it's a nice interaction between human and assistant. Yeah, that's something I'm very excited about because I get tired of going to the web and clicking here and there for doing some things that should be automated. Yeah.
Definitely going to change e-commerce. I'm seeing that very clearly how it's going to change, specific industries in like airlines and, e-commerce driven experience. So
I agree. Aaron, any last words, anything you're excited about?
I'm excited to see if we can get A to A set up on any of the agents that we've built. I'm really expecting to see that we may start to lean into like very specialized agents that are good at a very particular task, and use A to A to make those task requests get routed to the right assistant and have them done in a way that's better than we can get out of our like super generalized agents right now, which are awesome. But I think there are some things that you just kind of need to put your blinders on as people and get done. And I think the same is the case with agents. Agents that are super focused on a particular task are going to outperform generalized agents, I think, for the next couple of years at least.
Well, with that, we are going to end this episode. Thank you all for participating in the panel. And for listeners who want to hear more episodes of Leader Generation, you can find them at modop, that's modop.com. And if you were inspired by this episode, but still feeling a little overwhelmed, have no fear. Reach out to us. We can help you put together a roadmap, help you maximize the data and tech you already have, and start thinking about how you can upskill, retrain, and evolve your team's roles and become that company of the future. All right. Well, I hope you all have a great week. And it's like I'll see you again soon, but I'll literally just see you in another meeting today. So thanks again for making the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Tessa.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.